Hello. So this week for week 5 of our remote learning, we are going to continue our work with stats, and we are going to talk about the different ways we can represent our data. So not only are we going to still talk about mean, median, and mode, but also we're going to talk about how we can read and graph box and whisker plots. So then that way we can interpret the data in another setting. So before we jump into new stuff, I want us to make sure we remember what mean, median, and mode are. So remember, the mean is the average, right? We add them all up and divide how many are there. The median is the number in the middle. So in order to do that, we got to put the data from smallest to largest. And the mode is the number that occurs the most often. So I'm going to, before I even find any of this information, I am going to organize the data from least to greatest. So one thing I noticed is a lot of you last week, when you were finding the median, may not have put your data in order, and then you were finding the wrong number in the middle. So remember, it has to go from largest to, or from smallest to largest in order to find any of that information. So I like putting it in order because then it just helps also to find the mode and easily recognize that stuff as well. So let's find the mean first. So remember, you add them all together and then you divide by the number amount. Meaning, in this case, when I add them all together, I get 106. So I type that all into my calculator, and there are 11 numbers total. So I got 9.63, and it keeps repeating. So let's just round it to 9.6. That's our mean. So that's our average. All right, so find the median. Remember, you cross out until you get to the middle. So here, we're going to cross one on each end. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5. All right. So if we look here, we're stuck when I cancel out where we get into the middle, where we're going to have two numbers, right? I was double counting, making sure I crossed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I cross those both out, then we're like, what? Where'd the median go? So the median is this number that's going to be in between the two of them. So to find that in this case, I'm going to do 8 plus 12 and divide it by 2, and I get 10. So that's the median. And then remember, the mode is the number that occurs the most often. So we look here, do any numbers repeat? And in this case, no. So in this case, we do not have a mode. There is none. So no mode. Okay? All right. So then now there are two other things we're going to look at to measure our data. So these are called quartiles. So what the quartiles do is they divide the data into 4 separate sections, and we use that to graph box and whisker plots, where we have something called the lower quartile, which is quartile 1, and the upper quartile is quartile 3. So I'm going to use the same data set here, and we are going to use it to help us find, here I'm going to delete that, and we're going to now paste. Okay, so now we have our data set organized, right? And so what you do to find the quartiles, so the median is quartile 2. So here we found the median is 10, that's quartile 2. To find quartile 1, it's the median of the lower half. And when I say median, it's the number in the middle here. And then for quartile 3, it's the median of the upper half. Okay? So it would be the middle over here. All right. So let's find quartile 1. So cross, 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 cross. So same thing here. It's going to be the number that's in between these two. So if I do 3 plus 4 and divide it by 2, I get 3.5. That's quartile 1. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Cross, 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 cross. Okay, cross, cross. It's going to be this number in the middle. So if I add 16 plus 17 divided by 2, I get 16.5. That's quartile 3. Then this here is my minimum, and this here is my maximum. Okay? So to create a box and whisker plot, you're not going to have to graph this by hand, but we have the minimum graphed, quartile 1. This line here is the median. Then quartile 3, and then this here is the maximum. Okay, so that's why we need those 5 numbers. It's called your 5-number summary. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we use those to help us graph box and whisker plots. So using that, I'm going to write down our minimum was 1. Our quartile 1 was 3.5. The median was 10. Quartile 3 was 16.5. And the maximum is 20. So you graph your points for the minimum and maximum. Then these 3 create your box. So we have a line at 3.5, one at 10, and then another one at 16.5. I'm going to connect those. Oops. So then if you notice, there's my box. Here I'm going to move, and it doesn't matter how far up on the number line it is. I'm just going to make it look nice. And then the minimum and my maximum help give me my whiskers. So that's how we graph a box and whisker plot by hand. But really what we need to know is that the minimum goes here. Quartile 1 is the first line. The median is exactly in the middle. Quartile 3 is here. And then the maximum's the other point. So if I look here, here is a box and whisker plot of the average night spent on homework. Oh, these questions are not good questions. So I can be, what is the minimum amount of time a student spent on homework? And if you look here, we have sometimes we use lines instead of dots. It's okay, as long as they create our whiskers. We have our minimum is here, right? This is always our minimum. And that is 0 minutes. So then thinking about that, what is our maximum amount of minutes? So what's our maximum time on homework? So then again, we look all the way over here at the end, and that gives us our maximum. That is 190 minutes. Whew, they spend a lot of time on homework. And then we can go, what's the median amount of homework? And that would be 60, or not 60. The median is this middle line here, right? So this is the median. And that would be, keep wanting to write 60. That would be 48 minutes. So then quartile 1 is 20 minutes. And quartile 3 is 60 minutes. All right, so that is how we can read a box and whisker plot. Let's read another one. So what state had the highest average? So average, remember, is kind of the middle, so the median of tornadoes. Well, if I look at state A, its median is 7. And if I look at state B, its median is 10. So state B has the higher median. Then, what was the minimum of each state? Well, state A's minimum was 0, and state B's minimum was 4. So looking at this, obviously state B has a more common occurrence of tornadoes. So then I have a question is, what had an outlier? So an outlier is a number that's really far from the rest of your data. So if I look here, right, most of our data is concentrated over this. And then I have a really long whisker of 190. This would be called an outlier, okay? Even though it is our maximum, it's our outlier, right? If you look, our box is all the way over here. So that means most of my numbers are down here. And then I have this one random number that's way out there that drags that whisker out. So if I look here, where was an outlier? I would say it would be state B, because again, we have a long whisker that's dragging the rest of the box. State B has an outlier of 27 tornadoes. Okay, so that is how we read a box in Whisker Plot. So then later what you're going to do is you're going to graph these on Desmos, and I have a video for you to look at that.